Here's a question I want you to sit with. What do you do for a living? Maybe you are a teacher, an engineer, a nurse. Maybe you work in marketing or customer service. Maybe you are in between things right now. Whatever the answer is, that is your profession. That is what you do. But here's the follow-up question, the one most people have never been asked. What is your business? Not your job, not what your employer pays you for, your business, the thing you are actually building, the financial foundation that will exist whether or not you show up to work tomorrow. For most people, the answer to that second question is a long, uncomfortable silence. That is what Lesson 3 is about. When Rich Dad said, "Mind your own business," he was not using the phrase the way most people do, as a polite way of telling someone to stay out of your affairs. He meant something far more literal. Stop spending all your energy building someone else's business and start building your own. Now, this is not a pitch for entrepreneurship. Rich Dad was not saying quit your job and start a company. He was saying your job is not your financial foundation. Your job is a means to an end. And most people confuse the means for the end. Your profession earns you income. It pays the bills. But it has one hard limitation. The moment you stop showing up, through illness, layoff, or retirement, it stops paying you. Your business, by Rich Dad's definition, is your asset column. Real estate that generates rental income. Stocks that compound over time. A business that eventually runs without your daily involvement. The job funds your life in the short term. The business funds your freedom in the long term. Both matter, but most people pour everything into the job and neglect the business entirely. And then they retire and discover that what they called financial security was actually financial dependence on an institution that could change its mind at any time. Rich Dad told a story about many of his acquaintances, hardworking, talented people who built entire identities around their careers. Doctors who worked 80-hour weeks with nothing to show for it financially except a very expensive lifestyle. Lawyers who billed enormous amounts but spent it just as fast. Executives who seemed wealthy on the outside, but who, if they lost their job tomorrow, would be in real trouble within 6 months. What they all had in common? Excellent at their profession, but no business, no asset column. Everything flowed through the job and straight back out again. Rich Dad did not say this to be cruel. He said it as a warning. Because the biggest danger is not failing. The biggest danger is succeeding so completely at the wrong game that you never notice you are playing it. So what does minding your own business look like in practice? Rich Dad's instruction was simple. Keep your day job, you need the income, but start building your asset column on the side, even slowly, even imperfectly. Every month, some portion of what you earn should be going toward assets that will eventually generate income without requiring your presence. Index funds, a small rental property, a skill that can be monetized independently. The specifics matter less than the principle. You must have an asset column, and it must be growing. Here is something honest, though. This is the lesson people find hardest to act on. Not because they are lazy, but because the job is urgent and the business is not. The job has deadlines, a boss. It demands your attention right now, today. Building an asset column is quiet, slow. Nothing breaks if you skip it this week. And so day after day, people pour themselves into the urgent thing and let the important thing wait for a better moment that never arrives. The better moment never arrives on its own. You have to create it. Rich Dad had one mindset shift for this. When you earn money, before anything else, ask, what asset can I acquire with this first? Not what do I want? Not what are my bills? What asset can I acquire first? That one habit, practiced consistently over years, creates options. And options, The ability to say no to what does not serve you and yes to what does are the most valuable thing money can actually buy. Here is your action step. Write down what your business currently looks like. Not your job, your asset column. What do you own that generates income or will generate income in the future? If the answer is nothing, that is not shame. It is just the starting point. The question is, what is one small step you can take this month to change that? One investment. One skill that opens a new income stream. Something small, because tiny, consistent forward movement on this is worth more, in the long run, than another year of great performance reviews. Mind your own business. It might be the most important advice you ever receive. In Lesson 4, we pull back the curtain on why the rich legally pay less in taxes than the middle class, and what that means for the rest of us. I will see you there.